I can never do justice to that very, very excellent and on-point statement by Dr. Pandor. But allow me just to say what stood out for me and what I, in my 3 minutes, could highlight. And that is, of course, that Africa must unite. That is the bottom line. We buried Dr. Sam Nujoma on the weekend, and that was his, almost his mantra, as it were. Africa must unite. And that is the bottom line, I think, of what Dr. Pandor was saying. But she said there are 4 aspects that I picked up. One is working as 54 countries is not helping us. And as such, let's work with the UN, let's work with the Pact for Africa, and let's work on our agenda, Agenda 2063, which we as Africa have developed for ourselves. We've got our implementation plan, so let's put it into action. And secondly, we've got our natural resources, and we've got our arable land. So let us use that to build our continent, but not only build our continent, but to build a better world. And so I think that is bottom line. The fact is that, is it by 2050, 1 in 4 or so people in the world will be African? So we have got the power of youth on our side. And that's one of the highlights that Dr. Pandor spoke about, is that with our youth majority, we should look to our future development, not only for the continent, but for the world. And for that, we need to look at our skills education, our skills acquisition, our education, and to see how we as Africans can build up for ourselves. And what I loved was that Dr. Pandor spoke about the African continent plus the diaspora as one group. I think we have such power in our diaspora, and I think that has been proven by Ethiopia, for example, when they were raising money for the dam that they were building. They really relied heavily on the diaspora. Well, if one country can do that, and I know that's not the only country, I'm just using that as an example, then I believe that we as Africa can do that to build our own continent. And then finally, on arable land, coming from the driest country on the planet, Namibia's got 2 deserts, and we struggle with water, as do many countries in Africa, but we actually have lots of arable land. And we can utilize that. We can build on our irrigation. We've built a dam in the desert in Namibia, for example, and it's full. It was full before that dam was even completed, So there is a lot of hope in the desert. There's a lot of hope for Africa. And I think when we look at the potential for Africa, not only to develop itself, but to develop a positive world, particularly in the spirit of W.E.B. Du Bois. I love that you said Du Bois, because when I was in America, everyone said Du Bois. But the thing is that what we can do is we can focus on what it is that we want, focus on that vision, just the way that our African, the leaders of Africa who set up the African Union, the Organization for African Unity in 1963, what they focused on is what we need to focus on, a united Africa and where we can go together with that. And I'm going to stop with that, except to say that technology was highlighted by Dr. Pandor, and we need to get a grip on technology as it works for Africa. Appropriate technology, for heaven's sake, that was a sort of slogan when I was a student. Just let's have appropriate technology. I can't believe that I'm still talking about that in my 60s. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I think that was excellent. What we wanted was some salient points and with your own reflections. So let's now begin to move through the panel to hear, for example, Ambassador. How do you want to respond to the questions at the core of this debate? If you want to make a statement or two about what you heard in the keynote, please do so. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you very much, and a lot has been already said. I think one of the questions was about the UN Pact. And I think from what we heard, there's absolutely no sustainable UN Pact without Africa being at the core. I think what we heard is, a statement about the challenges, but a lot about the opportunities that we see. I think it's an Afro-optimist narrative that we heard, and I think it's time for Africa to take on this narrative. We all know the numbers. We spoke about the youth. More than 1 billion young people in Africa by 2050, under the age of 25. 60% of the world arable lands are in Africa. You mentioned it, Linda. 80% of them are unused. And we need to take on our natural resources and use them for the continent. It brings the question of industrialization. I think it's very important. We need to industrialize the continent. We need to work on regional integration. We cannot still have this fragmented continent. Of course, it's 54 countries, but regional integration is critical to be able to move away from the disparities. And we need also, and this is what we heard, we cannot still work on linear solutions. What the world is showing today is the need and the imperative to think out of the box. We need disruptive solutions for that. On regional integration is the same thing. We obviously speak about transport, connectivity, and so forth, but how about the role of energy today? Energy is a key thing about, bringing peace and prosperity, resolving conflict. How do we do about this? The nexus security peace development is an imperative. We need to work on the vacuum that is very often used to, impose solutions to us. African solutions for African challenges. This is what we need as well. I also heard about the youth, the innovation technology. Linda, you mentioned it. I mean, we saw the mobile revolution in Africa. I mean, when we see still the bureaucracy, we need a more agile Africa. We need to leverage technology innovation on our youth to be able to be, on top of the game when it comes to technology. We need to show that to secure seats at the UN, we have built our capabilities, leapfrog the technology, not just adapt, leapfrog. So this is something I think that can be definitely be accessible to us. Another point I would like to make is about disrupting distances. To disrupt distances, we need also to be able to build on regional champions across the continent, to do triangular partnerships, to work for the collective interest of the continent and the region, and not just for national interest. We need better relations between neighboring countries. This is critical, away from inter-African rivalries. And lastly, I would say that we need to shape our own narrative and our own way of doing partnerships. We need to define our terms of reference. We need to be more proactive, not just be passive and say, who is coming to us to do a partnership? What is it that we want? We need to impose our own ways of doing partnerships, our terms of reference. Otherwise, others will do it for us. Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Thank you so very much. I hope ALC students in the room are picking up those ideas, right? Some of the things you are hearing in this room are not in textbooks in standard forms. So please listen carefully. May I just say that the list is open. Those who want to join this debate from the floor, please put your names on the list. And I'll remind everyone again about the ground rules. Now let's hear from our academics, policy academics. Alex, I'll go to you first.
Policy academic.
Thank you.
Yeah. So for me, the emphasis point is that this is a really critical moment, watershed. The global governance systems are in crisis. Dr. Pandor talked about how the West is tired. She also said old ideas of the West, probably not the best. So it's a marketplace for new ideas, new narratives, new approaches. And Security Council reform is a key part of that. There are promising signs. The coordination of the Africa Free Plus. So it's not just African countries, currently Somalia, Algeria, and Sierra Leone, but Guyana, for example. So it's playing back to what Dr. Panda was saying, are coordinating common positions in conjunction with African Union. Go to the African Union website, see the A3 plus statements that are there. We wouldn't have seen this 5 years ago. This is positive steps forward. Africa now is a member of the G20. It's going to be co-celebrating in South Africa the first ever G20 summit on African soil. So that's 2 memberships of the G20 are African. Why did that happen? Incredible lobbying by Africans, but also growing consensus amongst the international community that the African Union should be part of G20. And so what I'm thinking is that this is the moment for African countries to reach common positions to really shake the global governance system. And, you know, Dr. Pandor's Tired West is open. Look, for Security Council reform, last year the UK said, oh, absolutely, 2 African countries can be on UN Security Council. They can't have a veto, but they can be on the UN Security Council. So did France, then did the US. Russia said, yeah, okay, that's fine with us too. And then China also, yes, we support Security Council reform, although haven't defined a formula. So again, there's real progress in this area. And for example, if you see what President Madabio in the open debate on this last year, during the presidency of Sierra Leone, the UN Security Council, he pushed really hard saying, we need veto also. And these are the debates that need to happen. So getting there requires partnerships, including actually, I have to say, with the Tired West, yes. It might be tired, but Funmi is here. She doesn't look tired, and she's working in the West. And so I think clever partnerships that are based on mutual respect and recognition are really important. And skills are going to be premium in this, and ability to show solidarity and networking. And where are the Mandela generation? I don't know. We're still part of that Mandela generation. Yeah. I mean, you know, I was living in Mozambique, witnessing South African destabilization. So thankfully, my first name wasn't Free, but it was something else. Then final point. I'm more ambitious, actually, than our panelists. I don't want to see Africa just marginalized to the African continent. I want to see African solutions to global problems. And I want to see an equitable world where everybody has equal partnership. And so my one worry is just to siloize Africans to Africa, because we've all been struggling. My career has been struggling to avoid that, which is to globalize and mainstream African voices. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, I'm trying very hard to be disciplined, so I will not offer a response in respect for the ground rules to what you said about me being located here, Alex. I'm going to let it. I'm going to let it pass for now. Last but not least, Comfort. Please respond to what you heard.
Me to abuse my position to pay tribute to you, because in this room I've been mentored by Funmi, and I want to pay homage to one person who has been mentored by you and is a professor today, the person who opened this session, Professor Eka, as well. And I think Please, come forward, come forward, come forward. Look, it's you know, if anybody asks you, where were you when the ALC was founded? I know where I was. And I remember Echo always standing by Funmi's side. And it's real privilege and pride to see what's been happening, because this is part of the Nelson Mandela generation. You're part of it. And it hasn't died.
Yeah.
It is nurturing the future generation that will work for solidarity. So I just want to show that there's a through line, because the founder of the ALC was part of the generation that brought us all together in solidarity. For Liberia, for Sierra Leone, Kaide, Professor Kaide, you founded the CDD, and through that is the generation, and you're passing the baton on. So I just wanted to put that as a bookend to where we are today. Now, to the issues that you said, I'm going to be the one that sort of doesn't follow the
Script.
the script. Well, only all to be a Debbie Downer, because I hear how you ended, Alex, and I agree with you. And at the moment when the continent really did choose to stand up in solidarity for other voices, those efforts at providing solutions were disregarded or disrespected. You talked about the mission to Ukraine, Foreign Minister, and you also talked about the solidarity around Gaza. And we saw how those were also shut down and pushed aside or disrespected, and how institutions, multilateral institutions, were weaponized against some of the messages that you tried to put up as well. So I think it's worth just establishing that as a fundamental challenge in trying to get Africa to globalize and be part of that solution manuscript as well. The other thing that I want to also say is that at one level, you are right, Alex, and I think our Foreign Minister articulated that, but the rules are changing, and they're changing very fast. And if you're not ready to seize that, you're going to be left behind at the platform as well. And there are no rules there isn't a guiding book that is going to accompany you into this new moment. You literally are rewriting the chapter. It's a completely different world. And that agency it's a passing moment. And if you don't grab it right now, you'll miss the moment. Because the rule makers of 80 years ago are the rule breakers. The question is whether we are going to be there to help shape what the future looks like. And I do worry that the pact of the future is of a different era. It was a completely different era where we thought there was still some remnants of multilateralism in the room. And today, I'm afraid, I have to say, that I'm not sure that there's much room, despite what you said, Alex, for progress as well. Number one challenge, we're waking up in an era where there are some strong voices who are calling for a defunding of the UN, a smashing of the system. So what space is there to have a concrete proposal for safeguarding the ideas that were put in the pact? Number two, one of the key architects of the UN hasn't even figured out what its talking points are, beyond wanting to smash it up, which is the US. And I think that we can't dismiss the power and the weight of what those around President Trump are advocating for multilateralism and the UN as well. And you're watching what's happening already with the debate with Europe as well. Number three, which then leads me to, then what are the options? What are the spaces? Maybe we'll have to form new alliances, which I think Foreign Minister Pandor, you were getting at, whether it's plurality or minilateralism or any other form of alliances, because the fate of multilateralism will not just be decided in New York. In fact, it's almost discredited to do that. You have to find other centers. And some of those centers are in Addis, some of those centers are in New Delhi, some of those centers are in Latin America. And you'll watch what's going to happen with COP30 as well, where Lula is already defining what he sees as a vision of a new development financing architecture as well. And then the last thing I would say, Foreign Minister, I was glad that you emphasised the difference between those who are willing to engage but those who are persuaded to go in another direction. And that undercuts the agency. When you choose to work outside of the collective, you can never ensure that your agenda will stand weight. When you choose as 53 to part company, then you undermine your power of the agency. When you choose to work against each other, even at the UN Security Council, you undercut yourself. When you choose to forum shop between regions, as we're seeing right now with the Great Lakes, you undermine the architecture of multilateralism. We had a 2002 moment for me when we talked about the glorious era of African diplomacy. It's virtually in crumbles. We need to protect it. And we cannot be complacent anymore because the train is out of the station in terms of undermining multilateralism, and we have to safeguard the little that we've got if we're serious about intergovernmental agency within the continent as well. I'll stop there.
Wow.